flexible. We really appreciate it. So guys, listen, this was supposed to be an in-person event, but we're transferring it into a live stream. So I have with me here Miss JC from Traffic 911, and she's going to be talking to us today about human trafficking and how it ties into teen dating violence and the safety of our youth and the work that, of course, Traffic 911 is doing in that space. So yeah, thank you so much, Miss JC. I know, and thank you for being so flexible and being a team sport. Like, guys, listen, we're going to get this message out there. We're going to help as many people as we can. Guys, you know that it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, and we're closing up the month today with this event to serve our community, to educate us on teen dating violence awareness and, of course, human trafficking and how these two social issues cross paths every single day. All right. Thanks, Ms. JC.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Well, as stated, my name is JC. I'm an advocate of agency Traffic 911. I'm here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So we serve Dallas, Collins, Dallas, Aaron, and Denver. And so what we do is all of the really applications that they all do to
I'm down.
And we just go out to the field or to wherever to those home, action, placement, different things like that. And we just meet them where they're at. So that could be lots of goal setting, going to have different experiences that they may not have otherwise with having a advocate. So we know that kids feel they play when they feel safe, and so that's kind of what our job is to get them to a place where they feel comfortable and can be vulnerable and share their experiences while also safely planning themselves. And so today we're talking about the intersection of human trafficking and teen dating violence. And so they really do go hand in hand. Oftentimes we see a lot of our clients that have been confirmed first being sex trafficked, and there's also like different partners that's involved in it. So whether they're the ones that have introduced our client into the life, or it's a separate entity and they are who they feel safe with, but that person is also not a safe person. That makes sense. And so oftentimes we have traffickers, whether they're kids that are 17 and 15, and or we'll have traffickers who are older than our clients, but they will typically boyfriend things, so they'll buy our clients tools, they'll pay for their nails done, lashes, they'll turn around and say, hey, I've done all of these things for you, so now you have to pay me back. And pay me back by doing whatever it takes for them to get their money back. Even though we know as adults there will never be, there's never an end to that. It's just a way for them to make money. And so when you have experienced that, or you've experienced any domestic violence in the home, you've experienced homelessness, food insecurity, there's a need there. And people that are involved in this world, they prey on that. And so it just makes it where our kids are more vulnerable to having someone may make them feel safe, but they're not engaging in safe behavior, whether that's physical violence or just holding things over the family's head and making them feel unsafe as well. And so yeah, it's an easy transition of how can I make money off of this person? We know that the human body is something, it's one of the biggest money makers in the country right now, because you use one person, you use them over and over and over, where with drugs, you sell the drug, it can be gone, or if you sell guns, you sell the guns, it can be gone. With the human body, it's repetitive. And you know that people are trying to make money, they're trying to make money. So they're using our kids, especially in this community, because Dallas for trafficking, there's so many different places that interstate or internationally. And so, it's important as a kid that we are seeing our kids, we're hearing what they're saying to us without actually saying it. We need to be paying attention to body language. What are they saying when we're asking them, hey, how's everything at home going? Hey, how's the relationship with so and so? If they're saying, oh, everything's fine, but you realize that they're withdrawing from having that conversation. Maybe we're engaging in, asking for it as a experience. That's one thing I found with my job. I'm always like, oh, I don't want to be like too nosy or whatever the case. The time that we're in and with social media and all this technology, never be nosy. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to ask questions. They may be crying out for somebody to ask them, how are you? How is this? Like, what does this relationship look like? And how can we make it better? So be curious. As far as the technology goes, checking your phones. There are a lot of things to get phones, and I know there's lots of conversation about like, oh, we want our kids to feel that we trust them and things like that, but there has to be open communication. There's so many things that you will find in those little teeny tiny cell phones every day. So yeah, that's all. Do you have any questions?
Yes. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about, you had mentioned, you said the human body is it just breaks my heart that the human body is a commodity for sale. And that's the reality that we face doing this work, understanding that people are the highest commodities. So when you get to interact with these students, these young kids, what is the number one reason that you have found that a lot of them fall victim to be trafficked?
Yeah, so a lot of them are vulnerable in some capacity, whether that be there's not a good relationship with their parents, whether it be mom, dad, whoever their guardian is, or they just are not heard. Oftentimes if they're running away, there's a root cause and it's in the home, and that needs to be looked at. Or sometimes we've seen an increase in familial trafficking, and so it's the family members that are like, hey, we can't afford this, so I need you to go do X, Y, Z to bring money into the home.
So I'm sorry. I know a lot of people have been listening to this and thinking, what does that mean? When you say familial trafficking, I know what it is. But for the mom and the dad who might come across this video and wondering, what does that mean? What are some examples? What does that look like when you say familial trafficking? Because I have a 17-year-old and he's working. He got his first job. Just for him to gain experience. Does that qualify? Because what is it? So let's break it down so they understand.
Yeah, that's a good question. So familial trafficking is really any person within someone's immediate family. So that could be mom, dad, aunts, uncles, grandparents, siblings, cousins, who are making a youth do something in exchange for money, clothes, shelter, and by anything it would be sex in exchange for something else. And so it's your family members that are doing it, and that's where the familial piece comes into play, versus it being a trafficker or a pimp who are making have sex in exchange for money for whatever the goods are that's being exchanged.
Exactly. Because most people assume that when that situation is occurring, it's only someone who is out there, like we mentioned, a pimp. And we all know what that word stands for, someone who is holding something over the family. So other than the familial trafficking, what other ways could a young kid become vulnerable to becoming trafficked? Some kids come from great homes. The parents are doing everything, they're providing, they're taking care of, they're very involved, but we still find some of those children as victims of human trafficking and teen dating violence. What could be some of those extenuating circumstances that puts them in that place?
Yeah, so substance use is the first thing that comes to my mind. Any type of addiction or struggle in that way is hereditary, whether it be one of accept that or not, it is. And so that is something that if your child is struggling with substance abuse, they're more susceptible to being trafficked because they're either trying to get to someone who can provide them with the drugs that they're looking for,
Yes.
or they just want to be able to do their substances in peace, where they know, like, okay, I'm gonna go stay over here in this park and I'm gonna do my drugs here. That way I don't have to listen to my mom and dad. But then you're in a park in the middle of the night and people, traffickers, pimps, whatever, they're looking in those places. They're looking to prey on those vulnerabilities.
Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. Thank you so much. So if someone or a family member needed to get in touch with Traffic 911, how would they do that?
Yes. So we have a website, traffic911.com. And so our phone number is on there. We also have 24-hour line. So if there was something going on, even if your child is not a part of our services, you can always give us a call. We can provide resources, we can provide emotional support, or whatever it may look like in that moment. And that phone number is on our website as well.
Awesome. And your services, are they paid for, or are they, provided as like a nonprofit service?
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit. We're grant funded the governor's office.
Yay,
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
it's free for our clients. They don't have to pay for any of the activities or whatever we decide to do for a visit. The parents, it's no cost to parents.
Amazing. So thank you, Governor's Office, for funding programs like this. Yeah, it is. It's good to know. And most people don't even realize how much resources are out there and available to them. So that's why we wanted to do this event today. So parents and the community would know, places to look for help and not be afraid to reach out to me. Because someone would think, oh, it's going to cost them something and they don't want to get another bill in the mail, especially if a child is suffering with substance abuse and they're trying to get help for that person. So thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
All right, thank you. All right, cool. Amazing. Thank you, Ms. JC. Yes, yes. All right. So we are going to transition very quickly to the next part of today's event. I know that we have to quickly improvise just to make sure that we still get our message out there. So you're watching this, you're going to be seeing our presentation online. All right, cool. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about teen dating violence. And basically, teen dating violence is an epidemic that affects children ages 13 all the way to 19 and into young adulthood. So the reason we got into this space, of course, is identifying the need within our community for helping parents learn about these issues, seeing how kids are impacted negatively with their academic performance and other areas of life. So let's get started. So we have this wonderful presentation. Hopefully you're able to see it online. So we're looking at teen dating violence and understanding what it is. There's a very simple definition for it, and it basically is just abuse from an intimate partner. For young people, I know the question is, why should young people be dating? Well, we do know that they form friendships and intimate relationships earlier on. So we have to be realistic to understand that the world that we're living in or they're growing in today is so much different from where we grew up. When you look at the different sections of humanity, we have our baby boomers, we have the millennials, then we have our Gen Zs, now we have generation X, Y, Z, and now we're back to Gen A, B, C. So now we're like children born this year, they're generation B. So look at that, our kids fall between the X, Y, Z generation. So they have several different forms of them. There's the physical, there's the emotional, of course, there's the sexual, and the biggest part that we really want to be paying attention to is digital abuse. We have some resources here that talks about cyberbullying. A lot of kids have become victims of suicide and because of cyberbullying, digital abuse, somebody saying something about them online. So being able to understand that our kids are very vulnerable with all of the devices that were put in their hands. A lot of parents put safeguards in place to watch and monitor what the kids are doing online, but I tell you that it's not 100% proof or safeguard. You still have to be very mindful of what kids are doing because kids get cyber stalked all the time, especially if there's a family plan. Let's just say kids have family phones, there's phones in the house, there's computers in the house. Stalkers online might not directly target the kids, but they can get to them through the parents' devices, if those devices are linked. So while the parent might assume that they are watching over their kids and they are doing what they need to do to protect and create safeguards on their kids' devices, cyber stalkers and hackers have found very deviant ways to access children online through their parents and through their parents' digital footprint. So all I'm saying is we need to watch over every single area. All right, let's move on. So the reality is very alarming, very scary, but it's good for us to know 1 in 3 teens in the US experience physical abuse. That is very, and sexual dating abuse. And only 33% of those kids will tell somebody. So they would not be very quick to want to share if something bad happens to them because a lot of them will feel a sense of shame. And there's a thing in the culture of that generation that feels like telling on yourself or telling on something is actually a crime in itself, so they don't want to tell. And of course, 50% of youths, of course, have experienced dating violence. They usually are very inclined to suicide. They want to take their lives. I mean, they just feel like it's their fault, it's the end of the world, and why that happens to them, they can't explain, especially if they don't have anyone in their close circle to share with. And 26% of females and teens and 15% of males. So this is not a gender-based problem. Like I always say, violence of any kind, whether it's domestic, teen dating, sexual violence, it's not a gender-based problem. It's a human-based problem. So men and women experience it. And the reason why it seems like the data kind of suggests that the numbers are lower for men is because there is not enough reports. Imagine if teenagers would not report, and maybe we get a bit of data and there's more females reporting. That's because by psychological awareness, a lot of men do not feel safe enough to even report a case of violence because technically society would always want to drop the blame at the doorstep of the male. But we need to change that narrative and provide a safe space for both men and women, for both boys and girls to be able to speak up when something is happening to them. And there's even same-sex abuse where boys are being abused by their friends, girls are being abused by their friends. So it's different variations of these things that parents and the community needs to pay close attention to. All right, so these are some of the red flags that we definitely want to talk about. This is the month of teen dating violence, and throughout the month of February, Honeydrops Foundation has run a very strong online campaign, and we have actually detailed a lot of these red flags. If you go to our social media pages, you will get to see a lot of content that allows you to stay informed and educated. So here, extreme jealousy, possessiveness, constant criticism and humiliation. These are some of the red flags, some of the things that a lot of young teenagers would assume is not bad because, again, pop culture, social media culture, everything out there tells them it's normal. Like, you know, when a friend or an intimate partner is jealous, doesn't want to see you with other people, they're very possessive, they want to keep it to themselves. Like, oh, he loves me, he must really care about me, like, because that's what is portrayed in the media. But we need to let our kids know that that is wrong. It's not healthy. And we should help them understand to identify it very quickly and learn the best ways to respond by removing themselves from those situations. Of course, isolation from friends and family, threats of harm, self-harm and violence, monitoring of their phones, their social media, you know, all of these things we see happen every single day. So we need to make sure that our kids are being monitor that they're taking very good care of themselves. So yeah, let's get back to our broadcast. All right. Okay, so pressuring them into unwanted physical, sexual activities, those are things that we have to be mindful of now. Parents, while these are red flags that your kids need to be aware of, there are also red flags that we need to be able to pay attention to. We need to be able to see, even when our kids are not saying anything. And that's where being able to know your kids very well comes into play. You get to know them so that way when things kind of shift a little bit, you're able to come in and hopefully mitigate the situation. Having conversations with them, like Ms. JC talked about, having this conversation, it's no longer a thing where you feel like you're minding your business. You can't mind your business when it comes to your kids. You have to be mindful to get into their business. Of course, understanding how to have these conversations is also important. And that's where reaching out to organizations like the Honeydrops Foundation and Traffic 911, we also help parents to learn how to have conversations and build successful relationships with our kids, because these are skills that not everyone has automatically. So understanding how to do that, we can help you do that as well. So that way it would be easier for you to begin to pinpoint some of these red flags even before your kids get to say anything to you. All right, what to do if you're a victim? Tell someone you trust. Fortunately, not too many kids have someone that they can trust. But teenagers usually confide in themselves, their peers, quicker than they would confide in an adult. That is the reality of the world we're living in. And that's why we took an approach a couple of years ago to create a system where we involve the youth in our advocacy, having these teen dating violence conferences and having these kids be speakers and then training them to become peer advocates and identifying how to speak up when they see something is very important. So going into schools allows us to do that. Of course, set boundaries and cut off contact with abusers if it's safe to do so. So we have to teach them these things in advance. So we are more of a preventive organization. We need to help our kids learn how to set the proper boundaries, to identify when someone is in the process of grooming them, because that is usually the first step that an abuser takes. They will groom you, like Ms. JC clearly explained. They would buy you things, be nice to you, and then on the back end, it's time to pay up. So now we have to let our kids know there is no free meal in Freetown. It's never free. When someone is overly nice to you, you need to be very cautious and be aware. So self-awareness allows us to help them determine what the boundaries need to be. And of course, documenting incidents. Of course, social media, digital space is very active, and it's important for us to be able to learn how to document these incidents. When you start to see certain things on your children's digital space, figure out a way to keep track of it, but also make sure you keep records. Because again, when it's time for law enforcement to do what they need to do in case something happens, they have to have certain documentation to go by. So proper record keeping, tracking, and doing all that you need to do to ensure that you are staying on top of it is very important. And of course, helplines are available. And I know that in the state of Texas, protective orders are given, but the enforcement is where we're having issues as community advocates. So we've had this discussion over and over with the city of Dallas, with the mayor's office. How can we ensure that when a protective order is given, when a restraining order is given, it's enforced? Unfortunately, they don't have enough men in blue to do that. We have to be our own first line of defense. So as parents, you have to figure out a way to teach your kids some safety strategies. And some of the things that we teach our community to teach is like having safety words. Like there's certain words like even if your child is in danger, if they called your number without the aggressor knowing, they can say pizza. And if you hear pizza, you know it's time to go. But the only way that would work is if you have put it into a system of safety measures for your kids. So having that first line of defense as your first responsibility, because you cannot always, I don't say we can't trust, we definitely can trust our law enforcement. They do all they can, but we have to be our first line of defense when it comes to helping our kids avert or avoid danger or even get out of a dangerous situation. So again, if you need any type of resources, training that would help you build these systems in your home, in your family, you can reach out to Traffic 911. You can reach out to the Honeydrops Foundation. We have these resources and tools to help you learn and build the systems for you. Okay. All right. How parents and guardians can support their teens. This is where parents need to pay close attention. You have to recognize changes in their behavior. There's some parents that you tell them, just don't insist about your kid, and they're like, huh? And they would literally be the last person to understand there was something happening with their child. A child comes home and they're just going into their room and locking themselves up. You should go in and find out what's going on. Or a child who was performing well and maybe they're having some slump or some type of dip in their grades, that's a huge red flag. Find out what is going on. You know, a child is unusually quiet and they're keeping to themselves. That is a huge red flag. You have to step in and start having a conversation, start trying to figure out how to connect and communicate with that child to find out what's going on. You know, teenagers actually account for the highest rate of suicide in the United States. When you look at suicide, it's teenagers, men, and then everyone else. So if our kids are taking their lives, unfortunately, what is going on? And how is it that we as parents are not catching it before it happens? So we need to be very proactive and very vigilant. Of course, create a safe space for open communication. This is something that has to be done. If your kids haven't learned how to communicate with you, or if you haven't provided that safe space where they can come and speak freely and speak confidently with you, and you're teaching them how to do that, then when they are in trouble, you're going to be the last person they come to. And then what happens to them? If their parents are not able to provide a safe space for them, do you think a total stranger outside will do it? A lot of the kids that get rescued from human trafficking, it's because they didn't have a safe space within the home. And that made them vulnerable to other people who are outside pretending to offer them what they couldn't get within the family. So teach teens about healthy relationships and red flags. We can't say that enough. We go to the schools, we try to be preventive. We need to teach them what's a healthy relationship. Teach them how to date. Be very, very intentional. Kids can date. I like, it's good for them to form those intimate relationships, but it has to be within the guidelines that you set for them. Dating in groups, very good. Or going to dates in an open space, in a space maybe they go to the movies. Things that you can monitor and control is very important. So they know that it's for their good. So they understand healthy boundaries and how to identify these red flags. These are conversations that they need to have within the home first. They should be hearing about these things from their parents, not from strangers like me. Of course, we do our work, but they need to hear from the parents first. Now, encourage self-worth and confidence. One of the things I tell my kids, like each of them, I'm like, look, you're so handsome. I say things to them that normally I know that they might look at me like, mom, but I want them to know that they get to hear it from me first. So when they hear from another person, it's like, oh yeah, my mom told me this morning. You have to build their self-worth from home. You have to let them know that they matter, that they have value. If your kids have a unique skill set that you've identified, use that as a magnet. That is the one thing that you want to talk about and highlight all the time. Hey, you're such a great cook. I'm so proud of you. Those are some of the things that will draw them to you. So if you're a parent out there wondering, how do I even get started? I don't even know anything about my kid. You need to figure out what they like. And the conversation starts from there. Something that they like and they care about, they want to talk about it. And that's where you can start having these conversations with them and building their confidence, building their self-worth. All right, last but not the least, when a kid has gone through or has become a victim of abuse or any type of situation that is unfortunate, you have to support them in getting the help that they need. The world is full of so many grown-ups walking around with trauma, age-old trauma, like the trauma is just things they just were not able to deal with. They didn't have the support that they needed, and they grew up in age, but they remained in the space of that trauma. So a lot of adults broken into pieces, walking around, and that is why there is such a huge spike in the incidence of domestic violence. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, were not able to break that cycle before they got to the point where they're now either abusers or they are automatically victims. Because the reality of the matter is, children will repeat the cycle of the one thing that they grew up despising the most. I know it's crazy, but that's psychology. So when a child has been in a home, in a family, in an environment, in a situation of abuse, and they have seen these things happen, they will, subconsciously fall into that role when they become adults. So we need to help them get the help that they need so that we can break the cycle from the bottom up. That's our mission, and that's always been our mission from day one. All right, how to foster healthy relationships among kids. Of course, we have to teach them the basic fundamentals of human ethos, respect. That's it. The golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Form those fundamental foundations for them. Help them to understand how to maintain boundaries. Give and receive consent. You don't get into people's spaces without their consent, and you don't let people come into your space without your consent as well. And of course, how to resolve conflicts. We use our words, not our fists. I tell my kids the same thing. We use our words, not our fists. So we need to help our kids learn how to resolve conflicts positively, how to mediate situations for themselves. And of course, we don't want to be doing everything for them. That is why we try to equip them. That's why this event was created. So we could equip the parents so they could go back and equip their kids as well. So we have to encourage their independence because eventually over time, we're not always going to be available for them, but we want to know that we have built a society where kids are able to think. But this time we want them to think in the right direction. We want to shift their focus away from negativity into the positive aspects of life. We want them to focus on things like education. We want them to focus on the business of self. Like I tell when I give all this talk, I said, you are the business. I am the business. Every human being is the business because we are in the business of building lives, right? So if you understand that you are the business, then you want to take your life more seriously because everything that is needed to build a successful business, we have to do it as humans first, right? So yeah, we have to do all of that. Now, the role of schools and communities, of course, we strongly advocate with our city councils that we're going to. City of Dallas, we've partnered with. City of Grand Prairie, we've partnered with. City of Mansfield, we've partnered with, and a few other cities coming down the pipeline. But we advocate strongly for our curriculum in the schools because we are able to go in there and help educate the kids and the teachers as well. Provide counseling services, all schools already do that. But the only thing is, while those are there, some of the things that we offer in the space of domestic violence and human trafficking is not allowed. Technically, there's a red tape to it. So having community advocates partner with the cities and the school boards is very important. So hopefully someone on the school board gets to see this message and takes it to heart. All right, so trained teachers. Teachers definitely, our educators are doing their best. But you know, when you go into the schools, especially the public school system, teachers will tell you when kids get into it, you can't really get involved. They want to escalate the situation, but we have to train our teachers how to identify and help intervene when it comes to abuse, relationship issues, human trafficking issues, so that that way we can help our kids. Because when I was a teacher in the classroom, I knew that if a child was not fully balanced and they didn't have all of the psychological components, there is no way that we're going to expect them to learn and perform well academically. So training teachers is important. And of course, establishing community and mentoring groups. That's why community advocates like us exist, like Traffic 911 and Honeydrops Foundation. All right, I think we're almost done. Okay, so legal protective teen dating violence. So these are some of the legal things that happens. Of course, you can get restraining orders. There are laws against harassment, stalking. As long as they're reported, of course, the law enforcement can step in. Teen survivors can report abuse to law enforcement, and a lot of confidential resources that protects you. A lot of confidential resources are out there. So when you're working with community advocates like Traffic 911, Honeydrops Foundation, you know that your identity, your information, your data, all of your reports and all that, they're kept confidential. So you don't have to worry about that. So these are some of the things that we know that are available, because a lot of parents need to know these resources are there for their kids as well. And digital safety. Yes, we want to talk about that because it's important for us to know how to teach our kids how to be safe online, how not to share their passwords. Of course, when kids are in relationship, they tend to share a lot. And we are in the culture of oversharing. We share everything. But we need to let our kids know that there's certain things they need to keep to themselves and be cautious about sharing personal photos. Oh my goodness. Personal photos and videos. I know social media today makes it seem like it's okay. But when a partner is asking you to share intimate, personal photos and videos of yourself, it's a no-no. It's a no-no. In fact, don't even take them. You know, so sharing those things are a no-no. Digital safety is so important. A lot of kids are held hostage, and we have kids' photos and videos being used on illegal porn sites, or I don't know, are porn sites legal? I said illegal. Like, yeah, they're legal, right? So a lot of kids' photos and videos are being used illegally on porn sites, and they're not even aware. So please be very careful. And that's actually a form of digital human trafficking. By the way, Ms. JC, am I right? It's exploitation, yeah. So if your kids are sharing info, you know, again, we have a lot of work to do as parents to help our children. The Generation XYZ, this is the world they're living in. We cannot take away digital access, and we cannot take away technology, because technology is only going to keep getting better and better. There's more advancements coming. So we need to stay on top of knowing how to use the technology, because if you're a parent and you don't know how to use technology, the fact that AI can now make people think it's you talking to them, they can show up as you and it's not you. The world is getting really dangerous, people. So please, let's help our children avoid and prevent online abuse. And of course, last but not the least, excessive control, recognize signs of digital abuse. So when they're in a situation where they're being abused digitally, cyberbullying, please, let's step in and do what we need to do to help them. All right. Okay, so anyway, we are done. So this is pretty much why we wanted to have this event today, to educate our community our parents, our anyone who really has a heart or who has a vested interest in raising successful, thriving youth in our community. To ensure that we provide this information and resources to them is why we wanted to have this event. So I really hope that today you have been served and you have gotten some value for this live broadcast. We will switch around and do something more as we continue on through the year. But of course, you have the honeydropsfoundation.org, that is our website, and our email is info@honeydropsfoundation.org. If you need to reach out to us for some of our resources, or if you need us to come out to your schools or do an outreach for your community, we are open to doing that, partnering with you to get this message out there a lot more. Please reach out to us. And of course, some of our community advocate partners, Traffic 911, definitely reach out to them. They're very proactive in responding to situations that have already taken place. So yes, we are on the preventive side. We want to prevent as much as possible. So we use education and resources. They are on the reactive side. They're able to respond appropriately and provide adequate resources to ensure that we help the people and the kids that need our help. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. And it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. February every year in the United States is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. So you have to kind of know all these things. And then October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And there's several other months that we dedicate to different social issues. But the most important thing is whichever one tugs at your heartstrings, get in there, support, volunteer, just be part of the solution. That's all we ask. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. It's me, Dr. Ika Chinadu. I am the founder and board chairperson of the Honeydrops Foundation.